markets are not either efficient or inefficient, they adapt to changing market conditions.
Amid the financial crisis of 2008, Clayton's peers were uncovered lending to sketchy buyers who they lured in with low teaser interest rates.
I divided the top 40% from the bottom 60%, the majority of people, and I looked at what is the economy of the majority of people like. And if you were to look at that economy, it is a terrible economy. It has not grown. It's the only population that has rising death rates from opiates, from suicides, the greatest change in incomes. It's a bad economy.
So if I were to sort of wrap this whole presentation up in a bow, I would just leave you with one message, and that is get engaged. And if you're already engaged, get more engaged. You know, are you really saving enough in your 401k? Believe it or not, for most people, you need to save more than just your 401k.
Investing is a very uncertain exercise because what you really need to do is you need to extrapolate what the future cash flows of a business are going to be, and then bring them down to the present and then decide whether that works or not. And in many cases, in many businesses, I would say that there's probably nobody on the planet, including the founders of Google, who could tell you what Google's cash flows are going to be 5 years from now.
The most difficult thing about all businesses is people, and the second thing is about people. And getting compensation and incentives right are a very important thing out of all of that. And it doesn't mean everything. In fact, it's not everything. If you don't have a great company to work at and people aren't passionate about what they do and where the company's going, compensation generally doesn't matter. Having said that, if you get compensation not done correctly, then it can be a problem.
I would probably say to you, buy a place to live in if you like where you're going to be. If you know you're going to be here at Google for a while and you're stable in your job and you're stable in your community, buy a place to live, because the tax write-offs for your personal residence are going to outweigh the tax write-offs for an investment property. And what you can do when you go to sell that property, or better yet, trade that property, you can then move that equity into an income-producing property if you want.
A banker is the person with the money. They're the one lending you directly. A broker is the one shopping the loan for you. So what does that mean? They come with a cost. Why would someone go to a broker versus a banker? Maybe your income is not that high. Maybe your credit is not that great. So the broker gathers all your information and shops it out to different banks. Believe it or not, you are paying that broker for that service.
I actually met the CFO of Coca-Cola recently, and she referred to shareholders as stakeholders. And I said, don't you really mean owners? Because the word stakeholder, I mean, you could be a stakeholder if you're the community, if you're this or you're that. There are all these concepts. But in business, what you really want your agents to think about is the owner at some level. Public companies are so far removed from that, it's not even funny. Really, it's the idea of how do you make the public company's money, management's money.
Here's a graph of the 1970s bear market. This decline is only 48%. Would you be a buyer at the bottom? If you think so, remember that this stock market crash occurred with runaway inflation, skyrocketing unemployment, oil embargoes, gas shortages, and rationing.
You understand the risk or you don't play the game. You know, and we have a picture of the mouse who's trying to get the cheese but being smart about it, wear a helmet.
I didn't know what I wanted to major in at college, and there was nothing I wanted to, I couldn't figure out, what do I want to do the same day the rest of my life? That's what I thought back in, kind of the 1970s. And I said there's nothing, but journalism appealed to me because you could do different things every day. Even if you're covering a beat, you're meeting different people, you're changing beats, and so you're covering one thing kind of one year and another thing the next year. And so a lot of appeal to me was just the variety that you get. And also, in the end, journalism was about people and getting people to talk to you and finding interesting stuff And so that's what really attracted me to journalism in general. Now, as far as business journalism, I didn't know that I was going to be interested in business journalism, but I actually, was drawn by the drama.
It's hard. In the investing world, the analogy I would give you is if you walk through a dynamite factory with an open torch and you get through to the other side safely, was it a good idea? And the answer is, of course not. It is an idiotic thing to do, and the fact that you didn't die was just good luck, right? But you should never do that again, right? So the investing world you can learn a lot of false lessons in the investing world. You can totally screw up the analysis and make money, and by the way, you can do good analysis and lose money, right? So learning from mistakes isn't as simple as simply saying, well, did I make money or lose money? Because the goal of investing is to make high probability bets.
Probably the two that are most popular is How I Failed My Daughter and A Simple Path to Wealth. And that was one of my earliest posts, and in that one post I kind of sum up the whole content of the blog and the book. So that's popular. Why You Need FU Money is probably at least as popular. And from the reaction of the audience, I gather we have people who agree with that.
When I got out of undergraduate school, it was 1986, and I would say in the mid-1980s, if you thought about an industry that was the place people wanted to go when they graduated college, much like Silicon Valley is now for college graduates, it was Wall Street. It was the original movie Wall Street with Charlie Sheen before Charlie Sheen became Charlie Sheen now, and Michael Douglas, and I mean, it was the place to be.
The third one is buying back stock, and here at least you know what you have. You're just buying a bigger piece of the pie, so to speak. So the shareholder who's left has a bigger share of the earnings as a shareholder.
Look up at the monitor and see, oh, wow, it's up 0.5 point since I bought it. I love it. This is great. And yet, we really need to let these things play out over longer periods of time.
We are a business of exceptions, truly of exceptions, and the really big winners, they are just almost unpredictable, right? So, and it's almost interesting, but the movie about Facebook came out, and for a while then people thought, oh, we must just fund dropouts from MIT or Stanford, and we're guaranteed to hit a success, right? And now people are kind of coming back out of that and saying, no, maybe you should fund people in their 30s and they're more successful.
I'm going to tell you when I first heard of Uber. And when I say this, you're going to laugh. You didn't hear about it until then. I heard about Uber in June of 2014. You think, what were you doing, living under a rock? I was actually living underground. Because I live in New York City. I take the subway. I never take the surface roads, because who wants to deal with the traffic? So I see this news story in the Wall Street Journal that says Uber has been priced by venture capitalists at $17 billion.